Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft, so grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode we'll be looking at a survey that Blizzard actually did send out, and the survey covers a few things, but the biggest part of it is classes. So we'll get into that in a second, but we obviously have the weekly news as always. So your world boss for the week is Shirai, Atrocity of the Undersea. This is located within Hallowfall, the northern part of Hallowfall. And, if you need some gear, if you're leveling up if you're gearing a new ult, this is where you want to get a decent piece of gear for it. The War Within and Classic Time Walking are your bonus events for the week. The War Within gives you another piece of gear at the end of each dungeon, and Classic Time Walking is obviously all of the classic dungeons, Diamals, Ulfarak, etc., while the anniversary is still up and going. Cooking Impossible is your brawl for the week. This is very simple. You have a cooking pot for Horde and Alliance, and you need to get 20 ingredients to the cooking pot. You can kill Horde who have ingredients to steal their ingredients, but it's quite a cute little brawl, and I'm not going to lie, it's quite fun. It's very enjoyable. Oblivion and Tyrannical are your mythic affixes for the week. Oblivion, essentially orbs spawn around the mobs or the pack that you're killing. You simply have to soak them before they get to the pack, otherwise they increase the damage of the mobs that are hit by them. Very simple, don't let the orbs get to the mobs. Very, very simple. So, this is a rough translation of the email that went out. And there's a few things that they go on about it. So I'll give you the full sort of read here, essentially. So, Survey 1. When you choose which class you want to play in WoW, which of the following information sources do you use to find useful? Choose all that apply. So, obviously, this will have a list of certain things. So, Wowhead or just like general guide, stuff like that. The survey, page 2. When you choose a playable class in WoW, which of the following factors do you consider? This will be mobility, enjoyment, meta, that'll be that sort of thing. Survey 3. If you would add a new class, which role would it have? Very simple. Survey 4. Answer the following questions for the concept of a Tinker class. Prismatic. As heirs to the Titan powers, Prismatics are carriers of cosmic powers that can not only be used in their pursuit or purest form, but their transcending powers can be merged to new powers. They refine and focus the power of life to heal allies, or the powers of order to protect themselves, or they merge the combined powers of death and shadow to deal damage to enemies. So another class that will have all specs, tank, healer and DPS, which is good. Answer the following concept of a Tinker class, and then it goes on to Bard as well, which is really weird. But Bard, supporter, healer, and tanks that utilize the songs of Azeroth to cast mighty spells, support their allies, and weaken their enemies. Bards shine in a group, empowering and improving the spells of others, and at the same time bringing numerous songs and auras to help their group reach new heights. If you were able to play a bard, I would love it if you're able to pick the songs that you're playing whilst you're casting spells. That'd be amazing. Gunner, quick offensive ranged combat class or character that wields 2 pistols at the same time. They apply different elemental effects to their weapons to create the deadliest arsenal of destruction against foes. So think of rogues and poisons, but instead you're doing elemental damage, fire, frost, arcane, anything along them lines. Not bad. Astrologian? Astrologian? I don't even know how to say it. Astrologian. Yeah, something like that. Mighty spellcasters that use the cosmic powers of the stars and gravity to deal devastating damage. They utilize celestial energies to cast spells, manipulate gravity fields, summon meteor swarms, and create star explosions. Boomkin, but on steroids. So, as a reminder, not all ideas you see here are currently considered or in development, and we ask you to keep all content of this survey confidential. Well, it's out there now, so it is what it is. But, yeah, essentially, this has gone out. Okay. There is so many. So, the new classes that they are looking at, okay, I didn't get this, by the way. I didn't get this survey. But, you know, it is what it is. I would have liked to, but sadly, no. So, the survey in which it gives... my words are I'm losing my words. Basically, they've asked it to pick certain classes what you would like to play. Okay, and they've gone through all of the different classes that they are thinking of, and sort of I'll be giving my ideas on them. Very simple, right? So first one is Apothecary, masters in the creation of potions and brews, which they use to harm enemies and empower and heal allies. They create unique combinations of elements to give potions varying effects, be explosive, toxic, or granting extreme power. So essentially, think of this as Professor Putricide from ICC. You're just throwing potions around, you're healing people with potions. It's not a bad concept. I definitely think that it's tough because you use alchemy a lot in the game, and alchemy may just be sort of a sub-variant of this. So it's kind of just, what would it be? Expanding on alchemy as a whole and turning your alchemical creations into damage or healing or tanking or whatever it might be. It's not a bad idea, but certainly not the best one in my honest opinion. Astrologian? Yeah. Astrologian. I don't know how to say it. I don't know which way is the best way to say it. Mighty spellcasters that use the cosmic powers of stars and gravity to deal devastating damage. They utilize celestial energies to cast spells, manipulate gravity fields, summon meteor swarms, and create star explosions. This one's very straightforward, like I said before. It's Boomkin, but dialed up, okay? I want this for Boomkin. I want 20 stars crashing down on someone at one time. I think it would be amazing. This is a pure DPS. This is kind of like Mage, I would say. Mage or Warlock. I think that this is one of the more enjoyable ones, but that's again because I play casters. I enjoy caster classes, and I think that this just, I like the concept of it. If you ever remember Suramar, okay, remember the Nighthold raid? There's that one boss in it. I forget his name, but essentially you're in his room and he's constantly like changing the background of the room, and you see the planets that change. Like one that's taken over by old gods, one that's been blown up by the Legion, you know, them sort of things. I love that idea. The Starry Night stuff, the whole, you know, moons crashing down celestial bodies, you know, I think that's crazy. And I think that would be really fun. And that is definitely up there with some of the higher ones, in my honest opinion. Bard, a supporter, healer, or tank that utilizes the Song of Azeroth to cast mighty spells, support their allies, and weaken their enemies. Bards shine in a group, empowering and improving the spells of others, and at a time bringing numerous songs and auras to help their group reach new heights. Okay, very simple. Everyone's familiar with the concept of a bard. The only problem is they would have to do it a lot better than what they did with Org Evoker. Okay, Org Evoker, when it was released, took over the game. It took it over in PvP and PvE. It wasn't fun to play against in PvP. I can tell you that right now. It was very, very depressing to play against in PvP. So I would like to see it as a better version of Org Evoker. And I always liked the idea of bards in a game. I personally wouldn't go for it, but I like the idea of a support class in games. Plus, if you get to pick your own music that you get to play constantly, fair enough. I will fully endorse it. But with bard, you have to implement different types of melee weapons. You have to implement like a guitar or like a flute or anything along them lines for bards to use. And I think that's just adding an extra weapon category that isn't needed in the game already. So that's my honest opinion on that. It is what it is. I think that it's a decent choice, but definitely not up there for me. Witch. Damage dealers and healers that use old magic to reach towards darker neutral powers. The magic includes curses, familiars, rituals, spiritual connections, poisons, decay, and more. This class builds onto the teachings of witches and dark magicians of WoW, including the witches of Drustvar, the Gilnean Harvest witches, and the Decay Gnolls and Troll Hexes, and some spirit magic. So this one, I think, is actually somewhat in development, just because of the detail they've gone into, and because they have an idea of like who they're comparing it to, which is the like Drustvar witches, the Gnolls, and stuff like that. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think witches should use totems as well. I think you need to give another class totems. I definitely think so. Because I love the idea of shamans as a concept and the whole totems, but I think witches need to have some sort of like totem. Not like 200 that the shamans have, maybe just like 1 or 2. But I like the idea of the dark magic being used. And obviously you have dark magic in warlocks with shadow bolts, unstable afflictions, haunt, etc., etc. But witches would... it's a different type of dark magic. I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost more pure. I don't know, because warlocks sort of draw on the power of the Twisting Nether, the Legion and stuff like that, and the demons. Witches would use it as just sort of a dark arts sort of deal. But I like the idea of it. I like the idea of old magic. So maybe you could put it into like Azeroth's lore that there was some old magic back in like the early years of Azeroth, and this magic was very well known, but it slowly died out over the years, and these sort of characters or these classes have only recently resurfaced with, let's say, Midnight or the Last Titan or something like that. Maybe something along them lines. A lot of these classes you can definitely call towards Azeroth, and the song being like the reason that these classes are now in the game. Certainly with Bard, like with the song, the Azeroth song being heard, you can definitely make a case for Bards. Astrologian. Is that it? I think that might be it. You could have done that for basically Legion when we went to Argus. So you obviously have a connection there. And apothecaries, everyone's done alchemy before, so you definitely have connections there that you could link it to. Which is not a bad call. I like that it can heal. I think that there's definitely needs to be another healer, in my honest opinion. I know that healing is a very tough one to balance, but I think that definitely needs another healer class, and maybe a tank class. But it's not bad. Witch is certainly up there. And you have an idea of that from Diablo, where you have the witch doctor, like Nazeebu and stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely think that this is one of the more fleshed out ideas that Blizzard have currently. Celestial Lancer, a warrior that uses spears and titan magic that are empowered by the gods for quick jumps and strikes. I don't know what to think of this. This one seems really weird. So is it just a warrior that can leap a lot? Well, warriors can already leap. They already have 2 charges. They're already very mobile. But I'm not sure about the Celestial Lancer. What does it do? Is it literally a warrior sent by the Titans? Or a warrior that has been risen from the last Titan? The last expansion in the trilogy? Maybe it's something like that, where you could throw in their lore. But I don't know what to make of this. They give very little sort of explanation, so this is probably on the lower scale, like the lower side of things, for me. But I like the idea of the name, but honestly, I don't think another melee needs to be in the game. Battle Mage. Battle Mages empower their weapons with the might of elements to aid their allies, weaken foes, and create constructs to control the battlefield. So, what I'm reading into this is a mage, but you're basically a demolog, is kind of what I'm saying. You're summoning minions to do your work whilst you're getting in there yourself. So it'll have the tankiness of like a leather wearer or maybe even male. But you're a melee class and you're summoning pets. Okay? Now, personally, I don't like more pet classes. It's a clusterfuck in arenas and it's a bit tedious to kind of manage. But I like the idea of Battle Mage. I like the idea of you're empowering your weapon and you're doing devastating damage with it. Okay? Now, Paladins have something like that, where like you're empowering your melee strikes to do like light damage or whatever it might be. Paladins do, but if you're fully like, okay, I'm going to put a fire, like maybe it's something like this. Maybe the elements do different things depending on what element you have. So if you're against something that is a plate wearer, for example, and you put fire on your weapon, you get 5 stacks of heating metal, something like this, and then you use a frost enchantment on your weapon to quickly cool the metal, and it will slow them, or it will deal damage to them, or, you know, something along them lines. You can combo stuff like that. That I don't mind the idea of. I think if there's some depth to it, I think it will be very fun. But again, Battle Mage, you don't get a lot. You don't get a lot. You get more than Celestial Warrior, but it seems like these are ones that have been thrown out at a later date and definitely not as thought out or, you know, thought through at the moment. So yes, it's going to be lower on the list, but I like the idea of it. Artificer. So, melee-based tanks, damage dealers, and healers that use a mix of man-made machines and Titan technology. Mechanic reactive gear is the foundation of their power. While utilizing new weapon types like extendable flails or reactive shields, this class is on the front lines of battle and protects their supports from their team or with their inventions. I've always loved Artificer. I've always loved Artificer in any sort of game. I love the sort of crafting element of it. I think you definitely need to go into the idea of crafting stuff. In my honest opinion, you have to manage something. You have to manage an inspiration or like professions, your concentration. You can build certain things with this concentration, and you can only build something every now and again. Now, obviously, this will be increased more and more that you level up or something along them lines, but you get to choose what you can make. You can make a giant cannon that you can walk on. You can make a small cannon that can just aid you in damage, you know, that sort of thing. Or you can do a 2-sided extended flail. Not sure how it'll work, but you would probably hit yourself with the second side of the flail as you extend the first one. Who knows? I love the idea of artificers, and I think that it's a very decent idea, and that's probably nearer the top end of this. The next one, Leyweaver. Okay. Leyweavers are connected via ley lines to the natural powers of Azeroth. We know that there are ley lines all throughout Azeroth, both in Azuna, not Thaldraszus. Is it both called Azuna? I'm forgetting the one that's in Dragonflight. Azure Span, that's it. Azure Span, Azuna. There are multiple ley lines all throughout Azeroth, so there's your connection there. The connection to their arcane power lines allows them to move quickly along them and manipulate the unseen energies that flow through everything. They help allies deal damage to enemies or buff and debuff as wanted. So damage and healers. I like the idea. I very much like the idea of using the powers of the ley lines that are referenced in the game many times, and you can tap into them as and when you need to do something. I would imagine this has sort of a essence resource to it. So like dragons, evokers, you have essences, and you spend these essences to utilize the powers that you have. I would imagine it taps into something like that. You have a certain amount of charges, and you know, talents can refill the charges. You can get it to cost nothing. These sort of things. That's my idea with Leyweaver, and you've got a lot of the lore already there to bake into it. So it's not a bad idea. I like the idea of the ley lines and sort of the blue magic of the ley lines, or purple blue, you know, that sort of coloration. I love that idea of these. I would say that they're actually quite high on my list, the Leyweavers. I think that they have a good shot, in my honest opinion. Gunner. We've already talked about Gunner, but I'll go over it again quick. Quick offensive range combat characters that wield 2 pistols at the same time. They apply different elemental effects to their weapon to create the deadliest arsenal of destruction against foes. This, again, I think would be very cool. I would like the idea of, okay, you're wielding double fire, so you just double the stacks that you're burning on them, or you're wielding fire and frost, which means that you're just slowing them constantly, or, you know, that sort of thing. I don't think there's much to it. My brain just immediately goes to the Wild West, sort of kind of gunslinger, that sort of thing. This is probably on the lower side. I don't think many people enjoy guns in WoW. I think they enjoy the medieval side. Maybe if you put crossbows, like double crossbows in there, kind of like the demon hunters in Diablo, I think that you'd have a more of a luck there. But again, it's probably lower on the list because it has guns for me. And I think that's the same with other people because it is a fantasy world. Now, I know that there are guns in WoW, but having to be forced to dual wield them, not really people's things. Hunters don't even like wield guns. I think they transmog bows mainly. So yeah, it is what it is. Prismatic. As heirs to Titanic power, prismatics are carriers of cosmic powers that can not only be used in their pursuit of forms, but their transcending powers can be merged to new powers. They refine and focus the powers of life, heal allies, or the powers of order to protect themselves, or they merge the combined powers of death and shadow to deal damage to enemies. This is the 3 different specs. This is tank, healing, and DPS. I like the idea of prismatic stuff. You got to be careful when adding something that's prismatic because I just think very colourful, and there's a lot of things already in WoW that make your screen a little bit of a cluster. So you'd have to be careful with how you implement their abilities. But I think that it's not a bad idea because the Titanic powers are constantly what is happening throughout the saga of the World Soul, or the World Soul saga, I should say. And I think that you obviously have a very good platform in order to throw them in there. But it's very tough. It's very, very tough to implement them or see them being in the game, in my honest opinion. You wouldn't go like, oh, yeah, I want to be a warrior or a mage. Yeah, I want to be prismatic. It doesn't sound like a class, does it? I don't know. Whereas if you think, I want to be a witch doctor or I want to be a witch or, something like that, or a battle mage, a bit more realistic, I think that they would have to change the name of prismatic. It just doesn't sound like a class, in my honest opinion. I think that's where it's getting a bit wrong for me. So probably lower down on the list as well. Gunslinger. Cunning and agile melee combatant that uses 2 pistols at once. Their sharp eyes allow them to see the weak points of enemies and deal with them quickly. You're just describing outlaw rogue to me, is kind of what I'm thinking, because you have obviously the pistol shot, you have the between the eyes abilities. You're kind of explaining outlaw rogue to me, and this screams outlaw rogue, so it's too similar. It just screams too similar in the gunslinger. That's why I've got to put this one down, like the list. I'm afraid it just doesn't ring a bell for me at all. The next ones I think actually have a very good chance. So, Titan Killer. This one is weird. Titan Killers combine the sword fragments of Taishalak and Gorable. Is it Gorable? Yeah. They use the powers of Gorshalak and connect it to the cosmic powers of the Titans to destroy any threat to Azeroth. Now, Titan Killer would be really cool for one patch, because if you're killing Titans, you're the perfect class for it. But if you're not killing Titans, your whole name of Titan Killer doesn't make any sense. I love the idea of combining, or like you're formed from the fragments of Titan's weapon almost, like Taishalak. You, like, it got shattered or something. Kind of like Frostmourne. If you think of Frostmourne as a giant weapon, well, speaking of giant weapons, actually, the better use of it, the better sort of connection is the giant sword in Silithus that doesn't exist, by the way. If we are to destroy that, the shards of that sword, whatever it might be, I forget, does it have a name canonically? I don't know. Sargeras' sword, but if you were to shatter it, the pieces of the sword are Titan Killers. Okay? Now, there's your connection to it, because the sword was initially used to try and kill a Titan, which is Azeroth. Azeroth is a Titan in itself. So it would make sense that, your class is called Titan Killer because you are from the sword that tried to, or has done, killed Titans before. Maybe there's your connection to that. So, again, just another melee class. I think it would be cool, but I don't see what abilities they would have. To me, it just seems like a warrior again. Like a warrior, but with hero talents already baked in. Necromancer. This is a usual one that you see in MMOs. Summon an army of undead that follow your commands and overrun enemies in combat. They combine different summoning spells to build the perfect army. This is Death Knight. This is Unholy Death Knight, but Warlock. Okay, so this is Warlock and Death Knight merged. Always a Necromancer class. I love the idea of it. I think a lot of people do. I don't think that they are. You could put them in as a unique class with DK and Warlock being there. I don't think you can do it. I would love to be proved wrong. I think this would need to merge with the, what one is it called? The Witch, where you're using like the rot totems and stuff like that, the rot casts, or the old magic. I think that would need to merge with this in order to give it some sort of identity, because you do have the DK and the Warlock that are, again, the same similar type than this. So it's definitely up there, but it's tough to fit him. Tinker. Genius inventors who have uncovered the secrets of Titan technology and using it to protect their allies, heal wounds, and attack enemies. Through their understanding of machines, Tinkers can create inventions, custom-made skills/spells, control mech suits, and deploy mechanical constructs to create an advantage in combat. I like this. So, the way that I'm thinking Tinkerer goes is you have a base spell, okay? This base spell can do one of three of, three things, okay? So it can do damage 3 times and different types of damage. It can do fire, frost, and arcane, It can do fire damage 3 times. It can do like healing once and then damage twice. It can do sort of all tank abilities. It can be defensive, all 3 of them. It can be 2 defensive and 1 heal. That's kind of what I'm thinking with this. I'm not sure if that's what they're thinking, but I love the idea of Tinkerer, throwing down little robots and stuff and bits and bobs to help out your team. I think that this is very much up there and a very good possibility of becoming a class later down the line. I think that it's very good, especially because we have so many dwarves now. We obviously have gnomes, mecha gnomes. You can obviously make a point for mecha gnomes and even goblins to be tinkerers, and they just have different styles. Kind of like how totems work with shamans. You just have different looks to these abilities. I think that that's what Tinkerer will be amazing at, and I love this idea of Tinkerer. I definitely think it's up there with one of the best choices. Warden. Versatile, armored hunters who have the art of chakrams and traps, devastating range and melee attacks employed. In my opinion, wardens can be. They are very much a group of people within Azeroth itself already, but I think you're looking at too much of a survival hunter. I think that this has survival hunter written all over it, wardens. And again, I think you're going to run into the same problem with Necromancer. I think you're going to run into class identity when, why be a warden when you can be a hunter but just go survival? Why do that? It's tough. It's very tough. I think warden should stay as their own separate sort of band within Azeroth, because you can call upon them as and when you need to help imprison someone or have as an ally in a final fight, that sort of thing. It's tough. It's just tough with the class identity with that one again. Spellbreaker. This is the last one. So melee characters that specialize in the combat against magical powers. They ward magic, but they also empower their gear with magic for their enemies to improve their combat capabilities. I like this idea. I like the idea of, think of anti-magic shell. It absorbs a spell, and then you can use these spells to empower your melee swings. So I throw a Star Surge into this shield that they have. They absorb it, and their next melee weapon does celestial damage or astral damage. Same with Wrath. If I was to fire a Wrath into this, their next weapon swing will do nature damage instead. I like that concept. I think that concept is amazing. And I think that it's actually got very much potential. So Spellbreaker, I think it's very much up there. Although I would hate to play against it in PvP. I really, really would. So out of all of them, in my honest opinion, I'm just going to say astrologist. Astrologist, very much up there for me. I would like to see a bard, witch, battle mage, and probably the Spellbreaker. Oh, and Tinkerer. These are my top ones. All the others, I think, are going to be tough to implement in some way, or tougher, maybe because of class identity, just the way that they might act and play in the game. I say that, but I picked Bard, and Bard is going to be very tough to implement in the game as well. I think all of these are very good suggestions, and I would love to see a new class by the end of midnight. I would love to. I don't think that's too much to ask for. At the beginning of the last Titan or midnight, I think that would be on par with the sort of release of classes and specs or races within the game. So I would very much consider seeing one of these, or very much think that one of these will come out towards the end of midnight, if not the beginning of midnight. I think that would be amazing if we got something at the start of midnight. But more the end or the last Titan is when I'm thinking. All of these are very good. I think a lot of people would enjoy them. A lot of people just enjoy new classes in general. They get to play around with them, have fun. You can create different compositions if you're doing mythics or PvP. I think all of these have a place in WoW, but some more than others, is all I'm going to say. But thank you all very much for listening. Do check out all of the socials down below. Constant stuff happening, as well as on Etsy. More stuff going up there each and every day. So be sure to check it out. Thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.